Are you running a small business or charity and you're feeling exhausted from the amount of time and energy that you're spending on social media? On top of that, maybe you're not even sure that what you're doing on social media is even really helping. Sounds like you need a social media strategy. Keep watching and we're going to go through how to create one, step by step. Hi, I'm Dan Maloney, founder of AudioSolve, where I help businesses, charities, not-for-profits, community organisations and entrepreneurs to communicate effectively with their target audiences. I've spent years as a director of comms and engagement in the charity sector, and as a freelancer and content specialist, I've helped all kinds of organisations to create sustainable approaches to their communications, including, of course, social media. Which brings me on to the topic of today's video, in which I'm going to help you understand why having a social media strategy can massively boost the impact of the communications that you do, and also how to create a social media strategy of your own. So, I hear you ask, why is having a social media strategy so important? Well, when you're a small organisation, maybe a small business, just starting out and you've got very limited resources, social media can be a really powerful tool with which to try and reach your target audience very cheaply or even free. And therefore, it's very easy to get into a mindset of more is better and just getting into a routine of posting everything, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, without really thinking about whether what you're posting is helping towards your business or charity aims or objectives. Without a social media strategy, you risk spending huge amounts of time and energy creating content, posting across various platforms on social media, without really thinking about why you're posting, what you're trying to achieve through those posts, and maybe even considering where your target audience are spending their time on social media. Moreover, further down the line, you really want to be able to measure whether the time and energy you've been spending on social media has been reaping the rewards. And therefore, if you don't have clearly defined aims and objectives, then you won't be able to say, yes, this was successful, let's carry on doing it, or no, this wasn't successful, we should try something else. So what is a social media strategy? Well, a strategy in general should be a high-level document that sets out clearly aims and objectives that you're trying to achieve. It's not a plan. It gives a sense of direction, but it doesn't give you the detail in terms of what the specific activities are that get you in that direction. So a social media strategy, therefore, is a document that contains the aims and objectives that you're trying to achieve through your activity on social media. So this will help you when you get down to the more day-to-day level of planning your comms and generating content ideas, to refer back to that strategy document and say, is this idea that I've had for a piece of content, or does the broad shape of the week that I've planned out in my comms fall in line with what I've said I want to achieve in my comms strategy? So now that we're clear on that, we can move into how to create a social media strategy for your business or organization. So step one here is to clearly define some aims of what we're trying to achieve through our social media activity. Now, these should really be linked to what your overall organization is trying to achieve. So if you are a charity, are you a fundraising charity? Are you a charity that campaigns? It might be that you want to raise awareness. It might be that you want to promote fundraising activity. It might be that you want to promote donations. If you're a business, it might be more like driving sales activity, or it might be building a sense of community around your brand. So what you'll notice there as a common thread, whether it's a charity related thing or a business related thing, all of these phrases that you might use to define your aims started with a verb, a doing word. So it would be build or drive or raise. So these are all things that you can look back on and say, when I'm planning my social media content or when I'm coming up with ideas for new social media content, does this meet the objective of raising awareness, or does this promote fundraising activity? So it is absolutely fine to have more than one aim here. So it could be for a charity that your aim is to raise awareness around a particular issue, but also to promote fundraising activity. You know, have 2 or 3 aims, that's absolutely fine. But the important thing is to be clear on what they are, have them written down, and that way you can build downwards in your strategy towards the day-to-day activity that you're going to carry out in order to pursue those aims. Okay, so now that you've got your strategic aim or aims, you need some strategic objectives to sit underneath them. Strategic objectives work as kind of high-level metrics through which to define how you would achieve success against each strategic aim that you have. So really, they should be slightly more specific than the strategic aim that you've created, and they should, if possible, be measurable, whether that's by data or whether it's just making sure that it's something that you can point to and say, yes, we have made progress in that area. So it might be helpful to go through a couple of examples so you can see how it works in practice. I would usually have 2 to 3 strategic objectives for each strategic aim that I have. So let's go through a couple that I've already mentioned when I was talking about strategic aims. This first one, raise awareness of a particular issue, probably more likely to be for a charity or a community organisation. So you can see here we're talking about raising awareness. So what does that involve at a slightly lower level? So I've got here increased social media reach and engagement. So that might be more impressions, that might be more engagement with people on social media platforms. The next one is to grow the follower base on key social platforms. So that obviously does what it says on the tin. Hopefully more followers leads to increased awareness. And then the third one there is to encourage interactive engagement with the target audience. So obviously the more interaction you get, the more understanding you would have of a particular issue. All of those 3 things would feed into achieving that strategic aim. The next example, more of a potential business one, although could work for a charity as well, build a community around our brand. So the strategic objectives that I've put in here are increase user-generated content. So more people producing their own social media content and encouraging them to tag you or whatever that looks like, depending on the platform that you're using. Boosting engagement through interactive events. That obviously could be online events, live streams, that type of thing. And then growing a mailing list is obviously a incredibly powerful tool for growing an audience, but also building a community and making people feel connected and regularly engaged with. So all of those three things there, again, would contribute to building a community around the brand. And you can see that pretty much all of them, you could find metrics through which to measure them, mostly through data. So you could take a baseline figure of where you're at with your followers, or look at some of your recent posts on social media and see what type of engagement they've got, and then look to measure that over a period of time to see whether the things you're doing are leading to success in those areas. Now, having your high-level aims clearly set out and defined within your social media strategy enables you to start thinking in more detail about who your audience is that you're trying to communicate with, and also where they are. So here it's really helpful to do an exercise called profiling, where you start to build an ideal customer or client or service user, however you like to describe it. So that might be a 50-year-old white male from the Midlands of the UK who likes gardening, spends his weekends at the allotment. That type of detail is what you're really looking for. It might be a university student who loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for example. It might be that you have multiple different types of ideal customer or client, and this really helps you to then think, okay, well, based on who those people are, what social media platforms are they most likely to use, and therefore where should I be spending most of my energy when it comes to social media and developing particular types of content. The other element of this also goes back to what those high-level strategic aims are within your social media strategy, and trying to figure out what you're trying to achieve and allowing that to guide which platforms you use. So, for example, are you trying to build a community around either a brand, or is it a local community activity or local community organization that you work for? Or are you trying to tell a story, and is there a significant visual element of what you're trying to do? And that would determine really where you're best placed in terms of spending your energy and your time. So Facebook might be a much better place for a local community organization or someone trying to build a community. Obviously allows a lot more kind of interaction. Instagram might be better for an organization or a business that's really keen on, storytelling and providing a sort of visual stimulus for your audience that draws them in and connects them to what your offer is. So to boil that down really simply, the key takeaways are: who are your audience, i.e. that profiling exercise? Where are they? That might be based on that profiling exercise, looking at age demographics, etc. And what are you trying to achieve, i.e. what are those sort of top line aims in your strategy document, building a community, etc. And the answers to those questions should give you some pretty clear clues about where your energy will be best spent on particular social media platforms. Now, this isn't to say you have to pick one by any stretch of the imagination. It's just about knowing that you don't have to pick all of them, and there might be one or two or even three that are going to yield much better results for you than, other ones that you might be just shouting into the void. Now, the last part of this that I want to focus on today is making sure that you actually use the platforms that you've decided to focus on strategically. So we've just gone through those exercises of knowing who your audience is, where they are, and what you want to achieve, and therefore picking particular platforms. So it's then really important to make sure that you don't then just go, okay, well, I'm using Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, I'm just going to post the exact same thing on each platform, because then you're back to square one of just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what works. So what you want to do is constantly have in mind that you have chosen, for example, Facebook to build a community around a brand or a service or something, and then make sure that your content and every post that you do works towards developing that aim. So hopefully that would enable you to plan really effectively what content you're going to put out across each platform and make it work for the aim that you're trying to achieve. Okay, so just to summarize what we've been through, visually it should look something like this, with your strategic aim at the very top. It might have 2 or 3 strategic objectives feeding into that strategic aim, and then underneath that you're starting to look at what your customers or clients look like, what their interests are, who they are, where they spend their time, that type of thing. And then a combination of all of that information should guide you towards the right social media platforms to use. It may be that you have multiple strategic aims, in which case obviously you're going to have more strategic objectives that feed into those aims, and the end outcome should still be the same, with you being guided towards the right social media platform with an idea of why you're using each platform and what your specific type of messaging would be across each of those platforms. It might be similar, might be different on each platform. So my next video is going to be on the next stage down from the social media strategy, which is how to create a social media plan and some more information on content planning and what that looks like in practice, so that you can be really organized in planning your content, developing your content, and then making sure that it gets out at the right time to the right audience. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. If there's anything you want me to focus on in particular in the next video or in coming videos, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd really appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, and hit that notification bell if you can. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.